Like it's almost like we're creatives, but like that, if your goal is to really do this for a living or to generate income or to build an author brand, whatever your goals are, you really need to think about your audience. So by very definition, a brand is built for an audience.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Writing Our Own Story, Small Business Life at Storyforge. This is our special guest appearances episode. Today, we are joined by Kathy Mice, who is the founder and CEO of Bublish. Um, First, though, we are Storyforge. If you are unfamiliar with Storyforge, please check us out at storyforge.com. We are a reading and writing platform that is looking to uh, change the publishing industry. If you'd like to give us a try, please use the referral code podcast when signing up, which will get you a free 50 quills, which is our on-platform currency. Um, as for Bublish, Bublish is the world's first publishing platform with built-in marketing, branding, and discoverability features. You can write, publish, market, sell, and track your sales all from one dashboard. Their mission is to empower self-published authors with the tools, resources, and programs they need to be successful in today's competitive book market. They are also proud partner members of both the Alliance of Independent Authors and the Independent Publishers Association. And there is also a special offer for people listening to the podcast today. If you use the referral code SF10 on Bublish's website, you can get 10% off any of their services. So after that long spiel, Kathy, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just get into it. Now, you've been part of the publishing industry for quite some time. Publish, you founded in 2014, but you have an extensive background before then. Um, Give us the high level overview and then really from what you did before, what drew you into the publishing industry?
Yeah, I think it was always storytelling and content. And I started in journalism, in TV actually, and found it kind of superficial. I'm like a research nerd. So then got more into print journalism, which has changed even more than publishing, I think.
Yeah.
And then, started to see the shift online. I mean, I'd have to admit, I have been in this industry for a really long time, but I did really watch that shift from physical to digital and what it did to brands around content, and kind of started thinking about that issue. And self-publishing, to me, looked like the future, and started out thinking like, how do people who don't have name recognition but have great stories to share get the word out? And we built some technology called a book bubble, which anybody can use for free, to help authors share excerpts of their book and enrich them with the stories behind their stories. And we track them all and we send them out to like 600,000 people, readers every weekend, all for free, and started to build on that. And then realized the more that we did to help authors like you guys with their stories in the beginning and making sure, they had the support they need to write great books, because it does take a team, and it takes
Hmm.
feedback,
Hmm.
and it takes an understanding for some people, based on their goals. It takes an understanding of the marketplace that they're publishing into, which is just tougher and tougher. So we started expanding, and now we are, an end-to-end solution, and we distribute books all over the world. So it's fun.
Amazing.
And it never
Um,
stops changing, does it?
Yeah, no, we'll get into that in just a moment. But I do want to mention two things that you did kind of gloss over in your resume. You did spend 2 years as a teacher trainer in the U.S. Peace Corps in Morocco, and then you were also a news analyst in the Embassy of Saudi Arabia, which very cool. And I wanted to make sure that people knew that about you because those are two things that most people they would leave with that, and you're just like, nah, I wrote a lot. I was a research nerd. Left out like you
Thank
lived abroad for 4 years. That's fine.
It was very amazing experience. And what is crazy is I am Bublish is working on a book by one of the people who was part of the Geneva Accords. And it's been
Ooh,
such a great honor, as someone who really cares about that in the world to work with someone who really, devoted his life to peace. So can't
that's
share
very
too
cool.
much, but
Wow.
it's, yeah, just serendipitous. And then, as someone who was, and it, around uh, peace in the Middle East, which is where
Yeah.
I was in the Peace Corps in North Africa and an Arab speaking country, Morocco.
Yeah. Well, you keep us posted on that. We
Yeah,
need
thank you.
people need to learn more about that. So, but back to the publishing industry. So, like you said, Publish has been around for 11-ish years. You were a writer, you were a researcher. What are some of the biggest changes you've witnessed in publishing since you started? And really, how are they shaping the industry?
Well, I think the biggest thing, we have an author, it's interesting, Stephanie Alexandra, and she was there at the very beginning when self-publishing, like you could just put a book up and there were
Hmm.
5 other books and you could sell thousands and thousands of copies. And she's like a lawyer by day and
Hmm.
she's a very talented writer and she's written a lot of different books and she's hybrid now. She has some traditional contracts. She has a lot of her books with us. Um, and, watching her evolve and come back and republish books and just talking to us about how much it has changed since the beginning. It's interesting, how much more competitive. Like you really have to understand the business of publishing now if your goal is to build an author brand, break through the noise. So I think there's that. But the other thing is, self-publishing was kind of, you know, the forgotten child and, like, ew. And now
Hmm.
it's so mainstream and, so many breakthroughs have happened because authors self-publish their books and then, sometimes New York woke up. You think of the Colleen Hoovers of the world.
Hmm.
Um, and now a lot of people are choosing either, we publish a lot of authors who used to be with New York and they say either I don't want to wait 2 years or I just want control or, I just want both. I want choices. And so that's what I love is that authors are now in the driver's seat. And so it's watching the power shift more to authors, which I just love seeing that
Hmm.
they have more choices. But they do have to be business savvy. And then I think the other big thing is the changes, the fact that still physical books still have so much power. The fact that romantasy now is like a big hardcover genre cracks me up. I love that because of the bookshelves on TikTok. But it's an ever-changing industry, but there are more formats. Like audio is the
Hmm.
fastest growing format. That didn't really exist. And now you have AI narration, making that more affordable for authors who can't afford, the $3,000 to $5,000 or more ticket to turn it into audio. So it's just a fascinating time,
Yeah.
ever changing.
It it's interesting something you said about the author getting more control. That is we've talked to some authors, we talked to uh I guess kind of like some influencers and some publishers and like that's the one thing that everyone is saying is that the author is taking more control when they go kind of that independent publishing route. And I think that's cool because one other thing that someone said, I guess it was Glenn Weatherhead of the Creative Writing Wizard, that the independent author has always kind of been uh like a bad word, if you will. Like you're like, oh, an independent band, that's cool. An independent author, eh. And that perception is starting to shift. Um, it's now, oh, an independent author. Okay, well, maybe that's better. Maybe that's not going to be the same thing that continuously gets pumped out New York ends up on that New York Times bestseller list. So, uh, Yeah, thankfully that's changed because, it's kind of what we're it's kind of what Bublish is all about. It's kind of what Storyforge is all about. We wouldn't really be here if it wasn't changing.
Yeah, and I literally just got off a Zoom call with one of our authors who's been with us for years. She lives in um, the Mediterranean. I'll leave it general.
Huh.
But then this is interesting. She got an offer from a European publisher um, to buy all of her ebooks. No advance though.
Hmm.
No. So anyway, she looked at the numbers and she was like, it doesn't make any sense for me. So I think what's fascinating is um, when you have choices and you can really break down the numbers and decide what's best for you, always knowing your goals, like what do you want to achieve and what can this company, no matter how they work in the industry, do for you. And if you don't like it, you have other choices. I mean, that's
Hmm.
fabulous. That's a fabulous development for not only for authors, but for the reading culture in general,
Yeah.
because we have a lot more diversity of perspectives,
Yeah.
which is always good.
So, Beatrice, I'm gonna throw this to you for a second because you haven't gotten to talk yet. Um, you're in the process of writing your own book. Shout out Glow Rot. Um,
Mm.
what made you decide to go the route that you were for publishing?
Honestly, being burned by traditional publishers before. And I am not going to say specifics, but I have had bad experiences. I had a very, very bad predatory experience with a what I learned now that it's called a vanity publisher when I was a teenager, which even makes it even sadder because it was like the whole idea of like, wow, I'm publishing my book. And yeah, nope, took advantage of me. I also had people in the industry be predatory towards myself as a person and as a woman.
Creepy.
Very creepy. It was my editor who was also the owner of the publishing house. So
Even
it was
worse.
a very bad power dynamic that was very bad. So I'm very happy I got out of there. And then I had an agency that kind of didn't have my best interests in mind. So all of those things fell through, and little things that happened with other publishing houses that made me realize that the things, first of all, the things that I want to write about are not the things that want a lot of publishers want to put out without a filter. A lot of the things that I talk about are very delicate topics that I talk about from my own experience. And some of the times it was like, yeah, but you have to filter out, you have to dilute this, you have to keep this vague. And it's very important for me that I'm transmitting the message of this is something that is happening and we need to talk about it because people are going through these things. And also, I am a very experimental author. I'm a very creative person. I am also a professional cover artist. I do my own illustrations. I do everything, and I have worked with publishers, even just doing cover art and everything. And I have seen how that lack of control changes the story sometimes into something that wasn't what you wanted to put out as an author. And again, even for the book covers, I have gotten an author come to me asking for a cover, and then the publisher saying, "No, actually, do not do what the author said. Do what we say." And all of those things slowly have put the piece of the puzzles together in my brain that made me decide, like, I don't really want this. I think whenever you think about publishing your book for the first time, no matter like in what stage you are, you think about bestsellers. You think about like the fancy book distribution for all the libraries and everything. But you don't really think until later when you learn more about the process how number one, like how hard that is for actually like to be achieved by someone that is starting. because even, and we talked about this in another interview, even if you publish with like one of the big five, it's not like you're going to have the distribution that a very, very much seasoned author is going to have, or the marketing that a seasoned author is going to have. But also, most likely you're going to, it's what Kathy said, have to wait several years, have lack of control,
Hmm.
change stuff. I remember a publisher rejected my story because it didn't have enough dialogue. And I was like, I that's not what the story needs, right? Like it, I don't want to just add dialogue for the sake of adding dialogue. So it's definitely way more challenging. It's definitely way harder. It's definitely more stressful, I think, that if I were to throw whatever I have to an agent and say, hey, just find me something. But it was a type of stress that I decided to take of myself, because it's going to be at the end a product that is more authentic to me as an author and what I want to put out there, that if I just threw it to someone and were like, yeah, just find me something, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the big thing is, and I don't know that, I think any author, no matter how they want to publish, should start with like a creative and professional mission, like what matters to them, and to write down their goals for each project. Like, what do they want to achieve? Because it's funny how people publish and they don't know what they want to have happen. And there are companies, like, if it's really important for you to be in bookstores, you have to know about the wholesale market, and you have to be, I think a lot of traditional authors are even paying for their own book tours.
Hmm.
But like, if that's important and you have a reason, like, that should inform your decision. If you're in a genre and you're trying to build an author brand, and that genre is primarily sold in audiobooks or in an ebook format, like, that should inform your decisions and how you publish and who you work with. And I think too many authors don't start the journey with that kind of, what is my creative and what are my professional goals, my mission, what do I want to achieve? And um, we always encourage them to
Yeah.
start there, right? Because then you're in the middle of something and you're like, well, this isn't what I wanted, this isn't what I thought it would be. But it's almost too late, or you've signed a contract, or you've made a decision, and it's harder to go back and
Yeah.
undo those things.
That's really good advice. So steering the conversation back around here, want to ask a question about Bublish. So Bublish has a whole bunch of different tools to help authors. I recommend everyone, check out Bublish.com. Very easy laid out. You'll be able to see everything they have. I want to ask a couple of questions. So you guys have the AI powered positioning tool and AI generated audiobooks. AI is a very polarizing topic right now. So what inspired your decision to kind of integrate with AI for some of your offerings?
So, first of all, I will start by saying I am a ghostwriter, writer, developmental editor, have been for many, many decades. So, at the center of what we do is preserve human creativity. And that's very, very important to us. And quite honestly, it AI does not have human experience. It
Hmm.
doesn't have human senses. So it flattens things out. Even if you can get it to write something that you can read, it's not nuanced. It doesn't have all the things that make us human. Who knows? Maybe someday it will. They keep telling us, but I don't see.
Yeah.
So nothing we do at Bublish around creativity or writing or editing is AI, and that's very important. But what we do see are opportunities, especially on the business side or where craft and commerce meet, that it can even the playing field. Because, for example, the AI positioning report, which was a huge investment of time and money for us,
Hmm.
uses multiple platforms to get the best outcomes. And we'd always, done positioning as humans, and we knew
Hmm.
how to do it, and we knew AI could do it faster and much effectively and much less expensively.
Yeah.
And that's part of our criteria. Like, is this something that empowers our authors to understand something that's crucial more quickly and more affordably? Because a lot of authors can't afford to go through positioning. So that shows up with a lack of understanding of how to title the book, even, how to design the cover. They don't know what their comparable titles are. So they don't know where their audience is and what they're already reading so they can bring them over. They're not copywriters, so they don't
Hmm.
write great book descriptions. AI is very good at copywriting. If you
This is
train them.
true.
We had to build a knowledge base of book descriptions so that it would understand how to build good book descriptions in lots of different genres. So I think there's a real role to even the playing field for independent authors around where craft and commerce meet. And the other thing that we always say is, are we taking human jobs? And we consider that very carefully when we build AI or take on a new AI tool. And AI narration, audiobook narration was part of that decision making. And when we look at it, again, it's so expensive for audiobooks to be narrated by humans that a lot of our authors can't afford it. We
Hmm.
offer still the majority of our audiobooks are done by human narration, but we didn't feel like we were cutting into people's businesses because our authors, the vast majority, just would not do that format. And yet, it's the fastest growing format in books. So, you're advertising to a page and you have an ebook and a paperback, but you don't have an audiobook, you're losing market share. So this is how we decide. Also, we have to test, like, um, is the tool ready to do a good job? With AI narration, it's improving dramatically all the time. For example, um, on uh, on KDP audiobook narration, they just added a bunch of new voices, and we can literally say to our authors, "Hey, there's 12 new voices. If you like any of those, we can switch them out because they're AI narrated." Which is kind of extraordinary, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're unhappy with your AI narrator and they're human, you're back in $3,000 to $5,000. You're in the studio. So I just say keep an open mind. I've actually taught on, like, how to assess. You really need to trust the players you're working with and that
Hmm.
they are ethical, that they don't train, there's clarity. Are they using your content to train? We're very clear we don't. Um, for the AI positioning report, for example, you upload your manuscript or your ebook, but we have what's called a cron job that takes all those books out of our system within 24 hours. Your report stays there, but and that it doesn't train any of the LLMs, the
Good.
platforms we work
Yeah.
with. So, and we are very cognizant that we're dealing with people's intellectual property, and you have to know that you can trust the players you're working with AI, and you know that's our experience,
Okay.
even for us.
Yeah. That is good to know. Yeah, I think the probably one of the major fears of people is that their works will get fed into those LLMs, and end up regurgitated on someone else's chat GPT for a book that's basically the same as theirs, and that will get sold on Amazon for 95 cents or something. But so we're talking a lot about technology. Um, have you noticed any changes in how readers value books, either physical or digital, depending on how the kind of the technological advancements at the time? Like, is there been a change as like Kindle Unlimited came out? Has there been a change since audiobooks have really come out? Like, have you noticed any kind of ebbs and flows in what readers care about?
Well, I think they're digital interesting to an extent has kind of pushed a commoditization mindset for
Hmm.
readers where um, readers are less willing to pay a lot of money because there's a lot of choice and it doesn't cost. You know, an ebook can be 99 cents or free. And that, there were a lot of economic forces at play there to cause this to happen. But I think what's interesting is then you have the power of the brand, right? And this
Hmm.
is the other thing that authors, I think, especially if they plan to write a lot, you know, Beatrice, you were talking about your, you know, unique approach and your unique voice. And um, the more that that shines through in an author's work and the more you're able to articulate that to new people who don't understand it and that gets articulated by reviews, it gets articulated in the way the book is described, it gets articulated through the opening sample, the look inside feature. You know, you really have to show how you fit in, but how you are different. And then over time, I think the biggest thing that we've seen too is more authors just going straight to their audiences and now more direct selling mechanisms. We're trying to enable that now as well. And so if you, first of all, can get in front of people and wow them with your unique approach to storytelling, and then somehow find a way to get to know them and take them off of these massive platforms like Amazon, which is great because it puts you in front of all these people, but you'll never know who bought your book anywhere in this universe
Yeah.
unless you can find a way to be business savvy and create some kind of relationship with them. But if you can do that and you develop a fan base, there's just more and more choices. And that's when you see the ability to shift away from the commoditization that has kind of taken place with author brand.
Okay. Um,
That
actually,
answer your question? I
yeah, it did. Actually, it did have a side question on that. Like,
Yeah.
you'll see a lot of times on like Facebook, people promote stuff. Sometimes even on Amazon, like they'll write a book and they give it away for free, essentially, as a way to kind of get their name out there. Is that an effective marketing strategy, or is it kind of depend on the person, the book, the genre, all that jazz?
First of all, depends on the goals,
Hmm.
right? So if the
Good
author's
thinking.
goal, I mean, if and it does depend, like, is this book the only book they're ever going to write?
Hmm.
Is it the beginning of a series? Because if it's the beginning of a series and the goal is to get lots of reviews and start to get the engines turning, then it's a fabulous marketing tool. And it's a what they would call for other products a loss leader. So
Hmm.
it's not just in books, it's a strategy for marketing. But if it's also a book for a business and the business would make $10,000 if one client came from that free book, then
Hmm.
it's a loss leader for that
Okay.
case. So again, what's the goal? And but if you're going to write one book and your goal is to make money off of that book selling copies, yeah, you don't want to give it away for free, but that doesn't mean you can't price pulse the digital version, right? So you can drop it to free if you're in KDP Select for 5 days. And maybe your strategy is to get your book to rank higher and get more reviews and widen the audience. So you don't have to be an all or nothing. You can approach pricing, at least with digital products, pretty dynamically.
All right.
I was gonna ask something to follow up on that because I agree 100%, and it's something that it's taken me, I don't know, like all the years that I've been marketing myself online to learn like how important it is for you as an independent author, the business side of things, and like how to, what you said, be business savvy and having your goals clear, and also specific strategy that depends on those goals.
Right.
And the more that I make community with authors, I realize that a lot of people are not really aware of that. And then they hit a wall and they don't know what to do. So you have obviously a lot of experience in a lot of these things. And I wanted to ask you if you had any specific advice for an author that is starting in that business side of things on how they could approach it. How can they start asking questions to themselves and building a strategy that works for their specific goals?
Yeah. So like for us, that was part of what we really wanted to bring down the price on positioning, because to me, that is where craft and commerce meet. So we all love to be in our craft mode. It's hard, but it's so much harder if you don't know anything about marketing or publishing or distribution to go into the business side, right? Like it feels so icky,
Hmm.
right? Like it's almost like we're creatives, but like that, if your goal is to really do this for a living, or to generate income, or to build an author brand, whatever your goals are, you really need to think about your audience. So by very definition, a brand is built for an audience. So that means this is where craft then meets commerce. So now you need the first place to me is to, even if you're going to break the rules, and this is nothing against creativity, understand the rules of your genre. Understand what your audience, who you think would be drawn to your book, what are they reading now? What do those pages look like? Where are they getting their editorial reviews? Are you seeing sponsored ads for them? So are they running advertising? How do they describe their book? Do they go after certain awards? Read the reviews. I mean, and you can do all of this for free. Amazon is just a treasure trove of data. What categories are they in? Book categories are they in? When you search for books in what shows up first, and what do those books look like? What are the best sellers? And that's, always changing, but like, and who are the classics? Who are the emerging voices? And how are they positioning their brand in the marketplace? So most of all, it's thinking, what are my goals? Who is the audience that I can most delight with my work? One of the mindset shifts that I tell people, because I'm not a marketer by nature, but when it comes to a book and I'm like ghostwriting with someone, I'm like, think of your book as a gift to someone. Not every gift is great for everyone. So the more you know about the person to whom you're giving the gift, the more you're apt to delight them. And that doesn't mean that you're compromising on your creativity. It makes you have more of an in-service mindset. And you think about the authors who really create communities around their work. They really love their fans, right? They really
Hmm.
make them part of the journey. They bring them in. They test their covers with them, um, and that's very, very powerful. So there's nothing wrong with thinking about your audience. That is, that should not be ick. But we but we put it over here in the ick box because it's marketing and we're creatives. So the sooner you can shift the way you think about that as more of the place where the two meet, your creativity and your audience, and study and learn, the more your goals and your audience and your content will be aligned. And that's where great marketing happens. And it doesn't feel cumbersome. It actually just feels like alignment, because that's what it is.
I have a follow-up question that's kind of like fun because you work with a lot of authors
Yeah.
that are very creative because they're authors. What is the most creative, or like what are your like top whatever creative ways that you have seen authors promoting their books besides stereotypical like social media or sponsored art stuff like that? To give a little bit more context, we recently had in another interview an author that promoted their books through drag shows, and we found that that was a very unique way to
Oh,
express who they were as an author, and then also the what the book kind of like the audience is for. And now I'm just completely obsessed with seeing like the unique approaches to people for marketing.
Oh, wow. So we have so many authors. Um, I think one of the most unique ways that we saw, and it kind of really took off during COVID, was collaboration
Hmm.
between authors in similar genres, like cross promoting, so that they would have events, joint events, and in those joint events, they would bring all of their communities together. So it was more of an abundance mindset instead of like, this is my audience, not yours, and that collaboration I think can be extremely powerful. And also you can learn through each other, like trial and error, and share ideas. So I would say that like online events that were driven by the authors and they were collaborative to get kind of a whole bunch of people at once. So that's one idea that I've seen. Not
Very
quite
cool.
as,
It's really cool.
but I love to see collaborative efforts. And then like, I mean, this is someone this is actually before her book is even out, but I know she wouldn't mind. But like, so this is someone who writes in the Regency, right? And so I think this is a fascinating thing that she's doing. So Regency readers, they like when you're writing historical Regency and you get a fact wrong, there's not just
Hmm.
like one person telling you, there are several thousand. Like that is not correct. So but she has been very successful in the Regency space. And now she put like a time slip twist on it and started a new series. So she's taking all of this is her print proof because she lives overseas. So she's taking her time travel audience to a new place. Now, to me, that's is marketing, but it's creative,
Hmm.
it's authentic, it's a way she's exploring things, but it's just like moving to a new place where she can explore Regency and modern and do it through like a time slip. So I love that too, when people kind of, they write deeply in one genre and then they're just like, let's just shake it up. Um, but it's not too dissimilar. So
Hmm.
hopefully her audience is going to come over to it. It's very cool.
Absolutely. All right, so we're kind of winding down here because I want to be respectful of your time because I know you have a ton of other things to do today. So I do want to ask you, I honestly want to ask you about StoryForge. What role do you think platforms like StoryForge kind of play in empowering authors to take a more active role in their publishing journey? Because you've said that they need to do that. How, how are we helping? Are we helping?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's a lonely process writing.
Hmm.
It can also be a bubble mentality. And if you're writing in a bubble, you certainly aren't going to publish in a bubble. So you might as well break the bubble earlier and start to get feedback. So I love the community aspect of what you're doing. And I love the feedback aspect because the other thing is, a lot of authors, either they don't know about the four levels of editing or they don't have the budgets. And so to get as much feedback as early in the process while the manuscript is still being put together is powerful. And it can really take something that had potential and make it better. And that's very important.
Awesome. We're glad to know that we have your stamp of approval. We're trying hard. We're working with our writers. We're working with our readers. And we hope to be publishing them soon. So I think we're gonna wrap up here. So Kathy, thank you so much for being on here. It was a lot of fun to talk with you. I hope we get to do it again. And then a reminder for everyone, check out down in the description. We will have the link to Bublish as well as the referral code to get 10% off any of their services. So thank you everyone for listening. And to everyone out there, we'll see you at the Forge.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Take care.
Hey everyone, it's your favorite host here. We recognize that the use of generative AI is a very polarizing topic these days. While we here at StoryForge do not use or condone the use of generative AI, we do recognize the value of hearing from many perspectives, especially from those already established in the publishing industry. If you'd like to learn more about StoryForge's stance on generative AI, you can visit the link in the description below. Thank you.